Travis Wayne Goodsell. So as we're in the latter days, as prophesied by the prophetic Jews of Jewish scripture a couple millennia ago, we find out how accurate they were. Amazingly accurate. And one of the prophecies is that the hearts of Mormons would grow cold. And so as we're nearing the coming of Jesus with the abomination of desolation, as Nelson has confirmed what I've been telling you, I've been more direct and bold with you. And as such, Mormons, instead of humbling themselves and going, oh yeah, I should have caught that. Why didn't I? Why did I allow myself to get fooled and hypnotized by Russell, Marion, Nelson? And instead they attack me. But it's not just Mormons, it's also those who have left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. For example, on my breakout video, Mormon ignorance of Mormonism leads to hate speech, which leads to violence. It applies to former Mormons too. Applies to any human being. When you refuse to study, when you refuse to do research, you just believe whatever you're told, it leads to hate. We are witnessing this in real time right now with the whole world against Israel. And what did Israel do? Oh, right, they were attacked. So everybody's blaming Israel for being attacked. And so Diane Adams, and you have to understand how lonely I am. That when a woman makes a comment on my channel, I'm like, oh, a woman. Oh, I wonder if she's the one and only. And then she goes and makes this comment and bursts my bubble. I love your program. You are right. Yay! The Book of Mormon is a novel, not scripture. She is not listening. And that was always the complaint of both wives. I'm not listening. Oh, dear God. So there was the woman who came out as queer, and so she abandoned her husband and her kids. And then later on, she would go on to just leave the church. And so she now does videos where she finds somebody's journal entry or somebody's false accusation against Joseph Smith, and she thinks it's true. She has no educational expertise in historical research. She does not know how to distinguish a fraudulent document from a true document, how to recognize the scientific processes and methods for establishing the truth of a document from history. And so I'm sure she would have been easily fooled by the Salamander letter by Mark Hoffman. the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was. They paid Mark Hoffman and hid it from Mormons. And it was only until after Mark Hoffman blew himself up that the church handed over the other forgeries of his. And so they were able to then go, whew, yeah, we were concerned about this, and so we're handing it over to you now as part of the investigation. Talking salamander. And so, yeah, even the September 6th, they're not experts. They worked for the church. Come on. Seriously? Dear God. I mean, Mormonism and the magic worldview, fortunately, he decided to go on to his hierarchy series, which was far improved. It was a subject matter which he knew better of. But witchcraft, oh my God, he knows nothing. He was trying to force it and to justify Joseph and trying to harmonize with the church, and it's just, And then Avraham Gileadi, with his book, trying to claim that both Jesus and the Jewish Christ are part of the church for the latter days, all because he wanted to keep his membership in the church. And so he sacrificed truth to keep his job and his membership. But the queer woman had an article that caught my attention, but again goes to the point that I'm trying to make. She found a document in which the Danites claimed to be the daughters of Zion. And of course, she's not an expert in Hebrew either. And so she's therefore thinking, oh, they're queer like me. Point an anachronism. It's just, I've been telling the videos over the years about other popular critics on YouTube against the church who, it's great to listen to them talk about their experiences being Mormon and how, silly and funny all that was and how wrong and abusive it is. But then when they do videos on church history, they lose me. They are not experts. They're just reading from somebody's journal, reading from Jeremy Reynolds' CES letter, and Jeremy's not an expert either, guys. He plagiarized from Gerald and Sandra Tanner. It is not a unique book that he made. But when you get people who don't bother to study and research, that's what you get. The dumb leading the dumb. And so nobody knows the real truth. Nobody knows that the Book of Mormon is in the learning of the Jews. But with the Danites, it's Hebrew. They call themselves Danites because that's Hebrew. It means judge. They are the judges. They are going to render judgment. And it's important to know Hebrew to fully understand the history behind the Danites. Rather than just collecting what you want to hear and disregarding what you don't like to hear or that doesn't fit into your conclusion. It's like polygamy. All critics love to point out all the stuff that Joseph Smith was a polygamist. And they do their videos, how abominable he was. And Mormons say, well, God told him to do it, I guess. And so it's just, things change over time, and doctrines and theology and the Godhead change, and it's just the way it is. Which is true. Nobody knows how to use Socratic theory development. Using sound arguments, premises, to lead deductively to your conclusion. And you have to explain everything. You can't just kick it out. And so when I was asked about Nancy Rigdon, I did the research on it. Sure enough, those were forged documents. She didn't say it. It wasn't her. And I think it was actually the queer who was doing the video on that. And then I did one live. Somebody again was asking about it, and I was brave enough to check it out. I could be wrong. Oh no! Am I going to be wrong? Nope. The man was tied to the Danites. I was right. And I came to be informed by the person that's helping me with the Joseph Smith Papers project, and pointed out that he noticed that Benjamin Franklin Johnson was the one who Joseph Smith was talking to about being a monogamous couple with his one and only one wife that Joseph Smith knew about. Section 131. Where is it? It's gone. Instead, it's gutted to be general in 131, so that when you then go to 132, you go, oh, I guess it's both about polygamy. No, LDS. Not that guy. Okay. Plural marriage. Sure enough. See here, they're claiming it was Sunday morning, April 3rd or 4th, 1843. Nope. Nope. All a lie. This is all a lie. Section 131 was given May 16th and 17th, 1843, a month later. Section 131 is in the Joseph Smith Papers. It's an original document. But this, they don't even have a... From E. Dale LeBaron. Well, that's a trusted source. The LeBarons are well known for their honesty, integrity, and peacefulness. But that's apparently who wrote this. Or somebody was getting it from him. But that's it. This is all a lie. The Joseph Smith paper says otherwise. None of this happened. But Benjamin, you will never know that, but you will know the principle in time, and will greatly rejoice in what it will bring to you. But how? I asked. Can I teach my sister what I myself do not understand, or show her what I do not myself see? But you will see and understand it. And he said, and when you open your mouth to talk to your sister, light will go. Is he trying to say Joseph told him to marry his sister? My sister Elmira. Or is it for her to marry Joseph? It doesn't say. On this we sat down, and the prophet proceeded at once to open to me the subject of plural or eternal marriage. No. Wow. That is just wild. But yeah, and it's these kinds of things that you need to catch. I've been telling you all these years to do what I do through associative memory, but on paper for you guys. And I should put my associative memory on paper too, in a reference book, which are piled up. And that's, you have a category for persons, places, events, and dates. And so that when you see patterns, you can then recognize the anomalies in those patterns to develop a theory to explain them. The majority of Mormons understand this by just reading their scriptures and listening to the prophets. They see contradictions and confusing things that are not answered by the prophets. These are the anomalies that you are finding as you're expecting to see a consistent pattern of harmony with the doctrine. As I myself, growing up as a kid, I couldn't figure out what the church was all about. I'm hearing all these winds of doctrine being thrown out there at us, but nobody was summarizing it for me until I went on my mission. And then the missionary handbooks, the pamphlets that we used to teach investigators with, were actually summarized in 1 or 2 sentences for each doctrinal topic of the church. And then I would go on to find out about the new member Gospel Principles book, and going over that and going back to the confusion and chaos. And so I, as a child and a young man, recognized that there was great need to simplify the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I would come on to find out that, oh, I see now. Now I know what's going on. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is false. And so if you're screaming at me, saying, what about the Hebrew, about the daughters of Zion, Travis? Or you left because you were impatient. I've told you numerous times that I was involved in the revision of the footnotes for the quad that was done in the early 2000s, that was first published with the Spanish edition with a guide to the scriptures replacing the Topical Guide and Bible Dictionary in 2009. And the church never produced an English version. It's all for the foreign language editions. And it's because there's still a last man standing who worked on that original project. And they don't want to humiliate him before he dies as to how poor quality he did with the project, as I've been going over with you all of the blunders of Bruce R. McConkie. As I'll say, Bruce, that's who I'm referring to. And so, yes, there are many scriptures that still need to be corrected because they rejected my recommendations. But, because I had the Jesus card, a lot of my stuff got through. So those of you who go on your missions or are converts to the church using Spanish or other languages that use the new footnoting system, you are being indoctrinated by me. It's just not on the key stuff that the church is still keeping a secret from you. And so when we got to Isaiah, I had already done Isaiah. That was one of the projects, because I had the Jesus card. I was very good at what I was doing, surprising them. And so I was even faster at doing the project. And so because I was so fast and so good, I was given more to do. And they typically did not like it when one person does a whole book. They want to split it up and share the work, so that not one person does Isaiah or one person does some other big book of high value and importance. It's pretty much Isaiah is the big one. I got to do all of Isaiah because of how good I am. And if you go through the English 1981 edition, or 79 edition of Isaiah, you will notice that Bruce R. McConkie was not good enough to do the whole book of Isaiah. As you go through the footnotes, you will see the difference. And yes, the good quality footnotes are Bruce R. McConkie's. He made some errors, and he purposely did not put in footnotes that needed to be footnoted because he wants you to think Jesus instead of the Jewish Christ. But nonetheless, I figured it out before I even was a part of it, because that's what I was doing. I was going through the footnotes trying to study my scriptures because nobody else was giving me the answers I was looking for. And so I immediately recognized that there was a big difference, and I didn't fully understand it until I became part of the project the second time around. And so when David Gaunt brought in the Isaiah papers for us to go through a second time, and I was on the signature of the original documents that was done, because the way it was first it was like the original process of individuals working on manuscript pages, sending them in, and then they combine them all together and produce the work. Well, this time around, because of controversies, there was a need to form committees to work on the project. And the majority of the individuals were put in groups of 4 to continue to finish up the work. But there were 2 of that group who were responsible for going over all of the work and making sure that it was kosher. And then there was a BYU group that screwed up the Hebrew and Greek, or kept it screwed up. And I was, of course, put in that top committee to review everybody's work. And so it included my work as well. And so when David Gaunt got furious with me and separated our group into him and James, and I was with Paul, Paul would see my signature at the bottom and go, "Oh, you did this. Okay, we're done." So that's how those got through and approved. But we use Doctrine and Covenant section 107, I think it's around 34 or 30, where each quorum has said that they need to be unanimous in their decisions, otherwise nothing gets done. And that was the policy they used for us. If somebody objected, nothing gets changed, other than topical guide Bible dictionaries to guide to the scriptures. If there's a controversy, it's just removed completely so that there's nothing there. Or an IE or an OR. If we can't find a guide to the scriptures and there's a controversy, it's just gone. And so yes, the key doctrines of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which are wrong, were the ones that remain in error. And this was one of them, that the queer lady did not understand of the Danites, is that when Isaiah talks about the daughters of Zion are haughty and high-minded and tinkling and mincing and prancing and frolicking and going naked. What is it with 800% Mormon women having syphilis in Utah? I'm having difficulty believing that all these Mormon women are doing the same hygienic practices to all separately, independently contract syphilis. Because it's an STD. And it's not an increase in men getting it. It's women. 800% increase. Dear God. I no longer want to have sex anymore. There are too many diseased women out there. Oh my God. Oh, no. That's the polygamy one. Now, here we go. But that's scary. You know? Because, just to think about it. Because it's not the men. It means that there's the same average men, and it's just more women are having sex through that man, which means the women are having sex with other men that are a part of this thing, and then they're giving it to new women. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty daughters. English language is fun. And walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, making a tinkling with their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. And the Lord will discover their secret parts. And so then lists all of the accessories that they have. Burning instead of beauty. And so as you keep on going, he continues, because the original author they're not divided by chapters, it's continuous. Verse 26, it's not verse 1. It's verse 27, except that chapter 3 is merged with chapter 2, and chapter 2 is merged with chapter 1. And they didn't have verses. It was just all written out in Hebrew, left to right to left. And so you get to the part where it says, verse 4, wash away the filth of the daughters of Zion, the spirit of burning. Did I miss over it? Well, it says man. 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Let us only be called by thy name to take away our reproach. He that is left in Zion, and he that remaineth in Zion, everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. And when the Lord had washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and purged the blueness, dwell in the mountain place. Yeah. Let's see if it's in the footnotes. It's probably back in this one. 16a. Modesty. Seriously? Modesty? I'm sure that wasn't Bruce. But here's an interesting one that they did not want to admit. And I purposely wanted to put the change, and they rejected it. Verse 9, the shew of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom, and they hide it not. And so I wanted to change the footnote from 9a, which was Genesis 19:5, and TG, apostasy of Israel, to include, if not replace, Ezekiel 16, in which the sin of Sodom was neglecting the poor. But nope, David Gaunt insisted that it remain homosexuality. And so because of the controversy, it remains homosexuality. But this is where they reference to the part in verse 5 here, and they called Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came in unto thee this night? Bring them out that we may know them. And they're trying to claim without using Hebrew. No is used in both Hebrew and English in this kind of context as a euphemism in place of a sexual word. Sex? But anyway, sidetrack. Daughters is in the plural, and it's needs to be understood in the context that when you include men in the context with women, males and females, then the female is understood as female, not male. But there are times when the daughters of Zion generally refers to both males and females. And that's what the Danites were using in their document to refer to themselves as the daughters of Zion. But when you're queer, it's a lot more fun to say, there's somebody like me who are terrorists. It really helps to be knowledgeable in the subject matter you talk about. Otherwise, dum 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 dum. South Park episode of Joseph Smith. And it's me, Jessie. She does videos on YouTube where she helps teenage girls prepare for their mission. She goes over everything about her mission to help teenage girls about their missions. And among the thumbnail picture that has inverted pentagrams all over the back, she did one review of the South Park episode. And I had watched the show, so I knew what was going on when she was watching in the background, and she was clueless. She missed a lot of the stuff in the show because she didn't understand what it meant. So funny. Hilarious. But yeah, there's a lot of problems. Genesis 19:12, I see thy sons and thy daughters. They distinguish the two here in this particular place. But you also got to be careful because it could be a mistranslation and not daughters, but house, which could also mean queen. So you got to pay attention to the translation. So thus it helps to know biblical Hebrew, and especially where biblical Hebrew goes wrong, because yes, there are numerous errors, but you got to know that. You can't just learn biblical Hebrew and think that you're now an expert. Sorry, Jews. Sorry, rabbis. You got to decipher Paleo-Hebrew, the origin from which biblical Hebrew made all of its changes. So, well, memory lane. But it's very frustrating for me to watch the news, to see comments, to hear Nelson and church news stuff, because nobody cares to know the truth anymore. Truth is just whatever you chose to believe. And you have no clue how to identify a forged document. It's just like there are those who believe that the salamander letter was true, and there are those who don't. That's not how you do it. And so, yeah, I've been very upset with Joy Reid lately on MSNBC, as well as Anna Kasparian. But Joy is tripling down despite my comments. I made a comment about how she's behaving exactly as Tucker Carlson did on Fox News. And so the next day, she does an article about how Tucker Carlson actually left Fox News. It's because of his extremist views. Well, Joy, that's you. That's what I was referring to. You're calling for the death of Israel. And MSNBC is not holding her accountable. And so then this morning I saw a segment in which she was interviewing a Christian or a Jew and an Islamist, saying that, oh, we all want peace. We're all from the same literal history Bible. Oh. I just want to cry. She just doesn't care to know the subject matter. And then she gets people who agree with her. And so in case you don't know, the Bible was written by the Jews. It is a Jewish prophetic book of scripture. Doesn't mean it's false. like the Book of Mormon. Diane, breaking my heart. But you need to know your history of when Christianity was created. You can't create your own history of Christianity. That just makes you stupid. And to deny Roman Emperor Constantine and deny the first creed of Christianity, which says in the creed, I'm creating a new religion, we're naming our Christ Jesus, and because nobody could agree as to his nature and character, I made up a brand new word, homuzion. It means not real. And so, this not real Jesus is now literal history in the Roman period time. We're changing the Jewish scriptures of prophecy of the latter days of their Christ, and we're replacing them with Jesus, the not real deity, and turning their prophecies of the latter days into literal history. And so anybody who claims that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were real people, right, Nelson, are lying to you. They are not experts in the field. They just read and have been biased from Constantine indirectly. Because it's been 1,700 years since that abomination. And so Islam, well, they're not Christian. Oops, are you sure? Allah, huh? From the Hebrew El, or technically Canaanite El, for the general name in Hebrew for God. But it's translated in the Quran in English as we. So a singular word with a plurality in meaning. Like Trinity? Exactly. We know exactly where Muhammad got his inspiration from. Indirectly from Roman Emperor Constantine. Just less than 300 years earlier. And so, what does he do? Oh, I'm the man like Moses. I'm the Jewish Christ. I went to the top of the mountain. I received the Quran written by the hand of Allah, the we. And so he's telling me, which you need to watch Bill Meyer's last night's episode of Overtime. It's on YouTube. He gets to that part of people who have God talk to them. And so yes, Allah told Muhammad to murder people if they won't convert, and destroyed their village. What do you think the Dome of the Rock is doing on the ruins of the Second Temple of the Jews? Oh, well, that's a complicated issue. They all have legitimacy to the land. They all come from Abraham. No. So yeah, it's been a frustrating life. It has not been a wonderful life. Very sad, very lonely, and very frustrating, because Mormons don't understand that the reason why the church is lying to you is because they're going to murder you. They're going to sacrifice you. You're going to be martyrs for Jesus. Just like all Palestinian Gazans are martyrs for Allah. It's so frustrating that nobody sees this. Or nobody wants to see it. The Jews are not killing or murdering Palestinians. They are defending themselves. Those Palestinian women and children even are willingly being martyrs to attack the Jews, to get the rest of Islam against the Jews. It's real simple. We're done.